They said they cared, they said they'd stay, but when you broke, when the world dimmed around you and the silence grew heavier than your heartbeat, they vanished like shadows in sunlight. No warning, no goodbye. Just absence, and for a moment you questioned yourself. Was I too much? Was I not enough? But the truth is colder, deeper. They were never holding you. They were holding the light you gave them, and when that light flickered, they weren't there to bring you a candle. They left not because you failed, but because your pain made them uncomfortable. You see, pain doesn't push people away, it reveals them. And when you were shattered, you learned something that success could never teach you. Who's real when nothing about you is easy to love. So no, their leaving wasn't your loss. It was your liberation. They loved the shine, not the soul. There are people who claim to love you, but their love is not for your essence. It's for the glow you carry when life is good, when your laughter fills the room, when your confidence commands attention. They love the version of you that's untouchable, the one who gives, supports, uplifts. But when life turns cold, when your smile fades, when your energy thins into silence, they begin to drift, slowly at first, then all at once. And you're left asking why. What changed? The truth is, nothing changed in you. What changed was the absence of what they needed from you. They never came to sit with your soul, they came to borrow your shine. And when you no longer glowed the way they wanted, they left like they were never there. But don't let that break you. Let it reveal. Because when you're broken, your shine dims, but your soul speaks louder than ever. That's when the real ones show up, not for what you offer, but for who you are when you have nothing to give. You see, many people will stand beside you when your world is golden, when you're winning, when you can make others feel important just by being near you. But when you're in pieces, they don't know what to do with your silence, your sadness, your slow days. That's not the version of you they signed up for. And in that moment, you realize their love had conditions, the kind that can't survive the storm. It's a hard lesson, brutal even, but necessary, because you deserve to be loved for the depths of your spirit, not just the height of your success. You deserve people who walk with you when there's no path, who listen when there are no words, who don't flinch when your crown falls. So let them leave, let them go without resistance, because the ones who only loved the shine would have never survived the dark with you. And your soul, tired, wounded, but still beating, deserves more than that. It deserves the kind of loyalty that doesn't fade when your fire does. You are not here to entertain, to please, to shine endlessly for others. You are here to grow, to fall, to rise again, sometimes quietly, sometimes alone. And in those quiet moments you'll discover something unshakable. The light within you is not for everyone, and it never needed to be. So the next time someone leaves when you're no longer shining, don't chase them. Don't explain, just remember, they loved the glow, not the soul, and that was never love to begin with. Broken mirrors don't reflect praise when you were whole. They stood in your light like it belonged to them, smiling, proud, as if your strength was a reflection of their own worth. They praised your victories, admired your confidence, and clung to your energy like it was their personal fuel. But the moment life cracked you, the moment pressure carved fractures into your spirit, they looked away, not out of concern, but because your brokenness no longer served as a mirror for their pride. You see, when you break, you stop reflecting what people want to see. You stop being the image that makes them feel good about themselves. And that's when they vanish, not because they hate you, but because they can no longer use you. In your strength, you were their inspiration. In your fall, you became their discomfort. They couldn't stand the reminder of how fragile we all are, so instead of staying, they silently stepped back, hoping you wouldn't notice, but you did. You noticed the shift in their tone, the sudden silence. The message is left unanswered, and it hurt, not just because they left, but because their love was never for you. It was for what they saw in you, like a mirror that only mattered as long as it showed them something beautiful. And when it cracked, they blamed the mirror instead of facing their own reflection. But here's the quiet truth most people run from. Being broken doesn't make you less. In fact, it reveals what was hidden beneath the polish. It shows the layers you had to build just to survive. It tells the story of your endurance, your depth, your humanity. And if they can't see that, if they turn away when the image isn't perfect, that's not your burden. That's their blindness. Life has a cruel way of stripping us down to what's real, and in that stripping you'll lose many, but you'll also find what matters. The ones who don't flinch when the glass breaks, the ones who see you, not the reflection, not the version that pleases them, but the soul underneath. They won't need you to smile when you're tired. They won't run when the cracks show. They'll stay. And that's what you've always deserved. So if your life feels like shattered glass right now, don't be ashamed, don't hide the mess, own it, because even broken mirrors still catch the light. And you, in all your imperfection, still shine. Maybe not for them, but for those who see beyond the surface. Let the ones who only stayed for the reflection walk away. You're not here to reflect anyone else's ego. You're here to be, even in pieces, even in pain. And that is more powerful than any perfect image could ever be. Loyalty is loud in silence. Loyalty doesn't announce itself in celebrations or in crowds. It doesn't boast when the music is loud and everything feels alive. No, real loyalty is revealed in the quiet, in the dark, in the moments when life offers no applause, no spotlight, no reward for staying. When you were falling apart, when your voice faded, when your strength slipped between your fingers, who stayed? That is the question that breaks illusions, because the ones who spoke loudest when things were easy often vanish when things go silent, and it's in that silence you learn the most piercing truth. Loyalty isn't about who shows up when they need you. It's about who shows up when you need someone and you have nothing left to offer. When you were broken, exhausted, perhaps even ashamed of your own weakness, some people simply disappeared. Not because they didn't care, but because they never planned to care when it became inconvenient. You see, there's a kind of loyalty that costs nothing. It lives in good times, feeds off joy, and thrives in your success. That's not real. That's proximity, not devotion. It's easy to walk beside someone who's winning. It's easy to clap when the outcome is certain. But will they stand beside you when your name isn't being praised? When your world is quiet, your eyes heavy, your words slow, that's when loyalty speaks. Not in shouts, but in presence, in small actions, in sitting with you when you don't even know how to explain your pain, in showing up, not to fix you, but simply to be with you. When they left during your lowest, they weren't evil. They were honest about the limits of their love, honest about their comfort zones, but now you must be honest too. Honest about what kind of people you let close again. You don't need those who vanish in silence. You need those who stand quietly beside you and say nothing, because they understand that healing doesn't always need words, it needs presence, and the more you understand that, the less you'll crave noise. You'll stop looking for people who speak the loudest in your life, and start cherishing the ones who show up when life is quiet, when the party ends, when the storm settles, when it's just you and your thoughts. That's where loyalty lives, not in words but in waiting, not in promises but in patience. So yes, it hurt when they left, but their absence gave you a gift, clarity. Now you know what loyalty isn't. Now you know what to listen for, not the ones who shout their support, but the ones who whisper, "I'm here." When everything else goes silent, your fall revealed their heights. Sometimes it takes a fall to see things clearly, not just about yourself, but about the people around you. When you were strong, steady, and reaching higher each day, many stood beside you. They clapped, they smiled, they claimed to support your rise. But the moment you stumbled, the moment life knocked you down and your hands touched the ground, you looked around and most of them were gone. That's because your fall did something unexpected. It revealed their true height. It showed you the altitude of their character. Some people could only rise with you because they were leaning on your strength. They looked taller standing next to you, but they never had the legs to climb with you. let alone to lift you when you fell. Your downfall, your collapse, your silent breakdown didn't destroy them. It exposed them. It showed who was only there for the elevation and who had the heart to stay when gravity pulled you under. In success, people surround you like flowers in the sun. But when you lose what made you useful, they wilt. They retreat, because your brokenness demands something they never planned to give: effort, empathy, and endurance. They can't pretend at your lowest. They can't fake compassion when there's nothing in it for them. And so they quietly disappear, and while that feels like betrayal, it's actually revelation. It's life telling you who's real without the mask. It's your fall acting like a torch, casting light into the corners of people's intentions. You didn't lose everyone. You found out who was never with you to begin with. You learned that not everyone who walks beside you is built to carry you. That not everyone who praises your journey is willing to bleed in your battles. And though it hurt, it was necessary, because now, with eyes wide open, you're free to build something stronger, something truer. The people who remain, those few, quiet, unwavering souls, are the ones who matter. They didn't flinch at your weakness. They didn't count your worth in wins or status. They knew your value wasn't in how high you stood, but in how deeply you felt, how hard you tried, how long you endured. Your fall was not the end, it was the filter, and what it removed was never meant to stay. So don't mourn what left. Don't chase the ones who scattered when you needed them most. Let their absence stand as proof that you were always climbing alone. And now that you've fallen, you're not starting over. You're starting with truth, and that is a far stronger place to rise from. You were a shelter until it rained. They came to you because you were safe. Because you were steady, calm, comforting. The place they could rest their burdens, cry their hidden tears, and feel strong just by standing next to you. You were their shelter. Not just a person, but a refuge. A light they ran to when the world grew dark, and you, being who you are, never questioned it. You gave without keeping score. You stood strong even when your own walls were cracking. You poured into them while your own cup was nearly dry. But the moment the clouds turned toward you, they vanished. The moment you needed the same shelter you'd built for them, all you heard was silence. Because for them, your strength was only valuable when it was theirs to lean on. They never imagined you could break. They never prepared to hold the roof over your head, and when the storm came, when you needed someone to simply stay, they didn't know how, not because they couldn't, but because they never intended to. That's the part that hurts the most. You gave them peace in their chaos, and when your world trembled, they called it too much. They ran, not because the rain was too strong, but because their loyalty was too shallow. You see, they never loved the shelter. They loved how the shelter made them feel. They never studied its foundation, never cared how it was built or what it cost you to keep standing. They only stayed while the sun was out, and the first drop of your storm was enough for them to walk away. But here's what you must understand now. Their leaving doesn't mean your shelter failed. It means it was never meant for people who only understand comfort, not commitment. What you gave was rare. What you offered was deep. And just because they didn't return, it doesn't mean it was wasted. It means they weren't ready, not for your strength, not for your storms, not for the sacred duty of staying. Let them go, let the rain wash them out, because the ones who truly care, the ones who are meant, won't run at the first sign of thunder. They will sit with you in the dark. They will hold the roof when it shakes. They will remind you that even the strongest shelters are allowed to break. And most importantly, they'll stay, not just because it's easy, but because they choose you, storm and all. So now rebuild. Not harder, wiser. Let your walls still protect, but never again for those who only stay for the sunshine, because you are not just a shelter. You are the storm that survived, and anyone who deserves your peace must be willing to walk through the rain beside you,